On the day that it happened, I wore my green suit. And the reason I chose that outfit is because I felt like it embodied something true about me. That regardless of what happened that day, my passion, my enthusiasm, my energy for fashion was real. It was authentic, and I wore it literally on my sleeves. And if I was fired, the person who would be leaving that day was a fashionable person. It was somebody who mattered, who was important. I was convinced that if I lost my job that day, my career in fashion would be over. And I was so worried about what might happen. This is the story about how I lost my dream job in fashion and what I learned. And I wish I had all of the answers. I wish this story had an incredible resolution at the end where I could tell you exactly what the moral is or what to do, but I don't know. But I'm making this video for you. You want to work in fashion or really any creative, competitive field. So this is a difficult video to make. I'm sure it's going to be a cringe video, but it's a story I've been wanting to tell you guys for a while. I just didn't know how, and I can't use the name of the company, so you'll have to fill in the blanks for yourself. Don't ask me, don't share in the comments. If you watch my channel, you probably know I used to work at Ina NYC. I was an e-commerce manager, and they're a chain of luxury consignment boutiques. I essentially was like a professional reseller. I shot thousands of luxury garments, and I sold them online on various platforms. And it was a fun job. I got to interact with fashion on a daily basis. I basically was hands-on in terms of archive stuff. But I knew I needed to move on. I needed to learn more. I needed to work at a bigger company where I could hopefully make more money or continue my career. I just didn't know what to do next. It can feel so impossibly hard to know exactly what you should be doing. And I spent a lot of time trying to do research, going to the library, going online, trying to ask people for informational interviews, basically industry people who might talk to me about their job and give me some advice. A mistake I made, what might sound silly, and maybe you guys might kind of feel it too, is I felt like I had to be in the right scene. I was working and living in New York, and I would constantly see these people who were dressed so incredibly. You would walk past art galleries or parties and see all of these creative individuals and wish you were a part of it somehow. Wish that you had access to it. And without really recognizing it, I had a fallacy in my head that if I could just get into that crowd, I would be able to succeed in fashion. I would be able to be creative and do the things I want to do. So I wanted that so badly. And I felt like working at the right place would somehow give me that, would open it up. Around the same time, I started making YouTube videos. I finally got the courage to start recording videos, and while it was always janky and I'm still learning, I loved it. I felt a real sense of fulfillment that I didn't doing anything else. And more than that, I connected with you guys. You comment, you DM me. I felt so engaged, and I felt like I can express myself in the way that I really wanted to in real life. I could talk about fashion the way that I love to. I could do something that I really enjoyed, and I added value to other people. So it occurred to me at that point that what I need to do was work in social media with a resale platform. I had all this resale experience. I was loving what I was doing with YouTube. And after months of applying this work, etc., I finally landed the job. I got a job at Resale Platform X. It's a big resale platform used around the world. They have a headquarters in New York. And my role was as an influencer marketing person. Essentially, I would find new influencers or artists or anybody with an audience and work with them to get them to promote the brand. And all of it was alluring, you know? Sure, the job wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, but the company was so cool. The people who I'd work with were so interesting, and they were so connected and involved in fashion. I wanted to work there. I thought that any challenge I could overcome. I'm an intelligent person. I work hard. There's nothing I can't do, especially in fashion. But this is where my problems began. The company was super fast-paced. The job itself demanded an analytical and marketing mind, which my interest always gravitated towards the fashion itself, the creation of content, the art part, basically. And I immediately began struggling. The thing was, the job really needed a socialite, a person who had a Rolodex of connections, who knew numerous influencers and could reach out to them in a moment's notice for a party or an event. I only was peering into windows. I didn't know these people, and it was hard for me to catch up, and my anxiety started there. I doubted the work I was doing. I doubted that I was at the same level of these peers who I thought were above me. That anxiety and doubt made me worse at my job. It made me double guess every DM that I would send. It made me afraid that I didn't belong there, that I didn't belong in this world of fashion because I wasn't smart enough or connected enough or cool enough. I wasn't likable enough. All the while, I still kind of felt like I was going to figure something out in order to continue making YouTube videos in a real significant way. Like I would learn what influencers do, or I'd make the right connection, or I don't know what. That this role was a stepping stone to do this other thing that I was having so much fun doing. That's this other thing that seemed frivolous and hopeless and stupid, but I enjoyed. See, I think one of the biggest problems that I was facing at that time is something called learned helplessness. And I learned about it through a Veritasium video, and the link will be down below. Basically, the theory proposes that people believe that there are things that they can't do or they can't control. And the only way for something to change is for forces outside of their power to do it. In fact, we often don't even consider possible realities because we're convinced that we're helpless. I thought that I needed to be invited in order to participate in fashion. That I needed to be given access in order to be in this scene or to be somehow a relevant creative. I thought that there were things that I couldn't control and they just had to be kind of gifted to me. The reality is, of course, that's not true. It's much harder to see the ways in which you're making a mistake at the time. I was convinced this was the right thing to do. After all, I have to make more money. I have to continue my career. And there was an anxiety that built in me. Fear that I didn't belong there, fear that I wasn't doing my job right, fear that if I lost this job, my career would fail. I would never have the momentum to keep going. I would never be hired anywhere else. And that anxiety and fear compounds on itself. It's a cycle of making me perform worse and worse. And I could tell that my performance was flagging. I wasn't doing the right thing. But I wanted to make this work because I thought I had to. So I would work longer hours. I would work earlier and later. I would work on the weekends. And as I did, it made things worse. I made more mistakes, and flash forward back to the day of the green suit. My boss walked in, and their boss behind them. They invited me to a room, and you can guess the rest. I was fired. I was told to pack up my desk and leave, and I did so without saying anything to anyone. How could I? I was so embarrassed. I already felt like I was an outsider there who didn't belong, and when I walked out of the building, it was still morning. I had the entire day ahead of me, and I felt blank. I felt empty in a way that you do when you feel so defeated. I walked in Manhattan until I reached Washington Square Park, and I sat there for maybe an hour, just feeling this emptiness. Eventually, though, I would find another job. I worked at a fashion creative agency for a while before the pandemic, and now I mostly do freelance work remotely. The dream hasn't come true yet. You know, these videos are usually done in retrospect, now that I'm a big success. But I'm not. And it's really scary sometimes. It's scary to think that I spend so much time on this channel that will go nowhere. Or that I will fail, because that's statistically the likelihood of it. I've begun to recognize something that's true about when I make these videos. I know it seems so unlikely that this channel will ever succeed. But in a lot of ways, it already has succeeded. When I make these videos, I do something that I love to do. I love talking to you guys. I love thinking about these ideas and then trying to be more creative each time. When I put them out, I get a little better each time. And every time that I put a video out into the universe, I get a little bit closer to who I want to be. Possibly more importantly, it adds value to you guys. You tell me in the comments, you DM me, you're excited. It inspires you, and I didn't quite realize how valuable or important that was, that I have to be doing something that adds value to people. That's really the key of it all. Because instead of hoping that something will happen for me, I'm going to try to make it happen. I don't know what the next step of this channel is or where I will be in 5 or 10 years. I doubt I'll make videos forever. My hope is that this community we're building, this coalition, whatever it is, that something vibrant can grow out of it. So that's why I spend my time trying to work on these videos. There'll be a million more mistakes for me to make. I will be fired so many more times. But if nothing else, I learned something. I learned that I would get back up. I would step up from the park and keep going. And I learned that once you realize those things, the resume, everything is like just a piece of paper. You start to think about what you actually really want to do. And once you focus on that, you know, you're no longer waiting for somebody to give you something that you don't have.